project was based on my great-grandfather, or Papa Kenneth. One lesson that he learned through his entire life and showed was to earn respect, you have to be respectful. I'm sure lots of other people use this as well. Papa Kenneth was born on June 7th, 1915, in the first year of World War I. He was born exactly 1 month after the Lusitania had sunk, which was a big moment for England in World War I. The Dora Act, or the Defence of the Realm Act, was only established in England during World War I. It was to impose curfews, take factories, and to keep people safe and prepared for the war. The family bakery was founded by Papa Kenneth's grandpa, or my great-great-great-grandpa. The people that run it was his dad, Harold, his mom, Elsie, his brother, Brian, his other brother, Harold Jr., and him himself. But sadly, it was sold. None of the brothers wanted to carry on with the bakery, so it was sold after Harold's tailor had died. Fish and chips, I'm sure lots of you know that fish and chips is very big in the English culture, and it's embedded in it. And it was just as well, it was his Papa Kenneth's favorite food. This is the Prestwich Asylum, which is where Papa Kenneth was born. This asylum wasn't just a mental asylum, but it was for people who were broke, unmarried mothers, orphans, or the mental disabled. It turns out that the one near Prestwich grew in Europe and held over 3,000 people and became the biggest in the world. If you lived in England during this time and you had a car, you'd probably have a Joet. The Joet was a family car that was used to go to places on vacation. My great-grandfather and his family used it to go to Blackpool, a seaside town. Oh, and also the Road Traffic Act was the act that still is present to this day, which makes people take a driving test before they're allowed to legally drive a car. But because Papa Kenneth had already been driving before this act, he didn't need to take the test. Mastoiditis was an ear infection that you can, it's here now, that is behind the ear, and it does bad things. Papa Kenneth had mastoiditis when he was just 12 years old and was in hospital for a year. Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin in 1928. Penicillin is an antibiotic. It didn't exist when Papa Kenneth had mastoiditis, because if it did, his thing would have been dealt a lot easier, his mastoiditis. This is Emmeline Pankhurst, and Emmeline Pankhurst was technically the leader of the suffragette movement, which was the movement for women the right to vote. People say that the suffragette movement was technically born in Manchester, right next to where Papa Kenneth was born. Papa Kenneth respected Emmeline Pankhurst a huge ton, and I'm sure everyone today does as well. The Pankhurst Centre is where Emmeline Pankhurst lived and is now a museum that you can go visit in Manchester. The right to vote was important for people, as now because of equality. The Laurel and Steve Hardy style movies had just become available, and they were the biggest film stars at the time. Laurel was English, and Hardy was American. So, and these style movies were Papa Kenneth's favorite. The first Disney movie was The Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and as it turns out, Papa Kenneth took my great-grandmother, Nana, I call her Nana Ronnie, but like Ronnie, to go see it, and his favorite movies at the time. His enlistment form. So his enlistment form was where he signed up, and he signed up in June 1940 when he was just 25 years old. World War II started in 1939. He signed up to be in the RAF as a communications officer. The Manchester Blitz was the bombing of Manchester and Liverpool on the 22nd and 23rd December 1940. It injured over 2,000 people and killed 700. When Papa Kenneth signed up for World War II, his best friend Ray Garside, which is this one, he signed up as well. Papa Kenneth wrote regularly to Nan and Ronnie home, because the letters were the only way to communicate. He put deep thought into all of them because he only did it once in a while, and he had to let her know that he missed her and he was safe. This is a telegram death certificate for Ray Garside, Papa Kenneth's best friend. They sent telegrams home and they had little emotion. So these were the 4 medals that he earned. I don't remember all of them, but this is the African Star, and he earned for the Battle of Britain, which was part of Manchester Blitz. Papa Kenneth was, he didn't, at the end of World War II, he didn't even apply for the medals because he was so sad about Ray's death, but luckily his family applied on his behalf. Papa Kenneth was stationed in the Western Desert for 4 years, and on leave he got time and he went to Cairo. So here's Papa Kenneth with another friend of his. This is Eric, this is my Papa Kenneth, and they were just floating in the Dead Sea, and the reason he did that is because of all the salt. Alan Turing was a brilliant mathematician and was asked by the government to help crack the Enigma code. He was one of the reasons why the Allies won World War II. The Colossus machine was invented by Alan Turing, and it was technically the first original computer. It worked a lot faster than humans and therefore saved countless lives. After the war, Alan Turing lived in Wilmslow, just 5 minutes away from where I lived in England. He did this because he worked at Manchester University. He was so important to the world that they got a film named after him called The Imitation Game, starring Benedict Cumberbatch. Oh, no. Rationing. Rationing is the limited amount of food per person that you can buy because of the war, and food was scarce and soldiers needed enough food as well. Papa Kenneth and countless other English people were very happy because fish and chips were not rationed because of their damaging morale. Sir Stanley Matthews is Papa Kenneth's hero, and he's been the only player that's been knighted whilst he was still playing. He played for Papa Kenneth's local team and his favourite team, Stoke City and Blackpool. Stoke City is the 3rd oldest club in England. So the Beatles were John, Paul, George, and Ringo, aka the Beatles. They were the most influential band and took the world by storm. Many people know their music. Papa Kenneth loved listening to the Beatles, and my grandparents held a tribute Beatles charity concert every year. Papa Kenneth made the newspaper for their 65th wedding anniversary, which I believe is sapphire, which is a type of diamond. And he was surrounded by 4 generations of family and friends. Here's a picture of me, my brother, my dad, my grandfather, and Papa Kenneth. He died in 2009 when I was 3 years old, but I was lucky enough to meet him. I enjoyed visiting him because he always had a jar of chocolate raisins for me and my brother. I don't know. Father Kenneth respected not just his family and his friends, but the Gurkhas who were in World War II. He owed his return home to them. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it.